Well, let's cross over live to Jerusalem. France 24's correspondent Noga Tarnopolsky is standing by for us. Noga, tell us what we can expect from this cabinet meeting later on today.
Well, it's going to be feisty. Not only Ben Gvir has threatened to resign if it's passed, there's also the finance minister whose final decision we don't yet know. He seemed to be inclined to say he would stick it out, but only for part of this deal. Netanyahu's government won't fall either way, even if he does lose Ben Gvir's votes. This is not a non-confidence motion, but it will be a weaker, somewhat weaker Prime Minister Netanyahu, who is going to be overseeing not just phase one of this agreement, but even more difficult, starting on day 16 of the implementation of phase one. Negotiations are expected to begin on phase two. And that's the really tricky part for Netanyahu, where he's expected to lose even more ministers as the government has to debate plans for a full and complete withdrawal of Israeli military forces from Gaza, something at least half his cabinet does not want Israel to do, plus a discussion over who will replace Hamas in the administration of the Gaza Strip into the future, which, again, the Israeli government has never been able to even accept a conversation of.
Well, Noga, just lay out for us what some of the key sticking points are in this deal. Why so much opposition from Ben Gvir?
Well, it turns out, interestingly, that at the end, the sticky points weren't between Hamas and Israel, but between the Israeli extremists within a very extremist government and the prime minister, who basically found himself obliged by Donald Trump to do it. But the points are pretty blunt. Ben Gvir, Smotrich, and maybe a few other members of Netanyahu's cabinet were promised by the prime minister absolute victory. Were promised that Hamas would be eradicated. And by definition, if Israel's in negotiations with Hamas, it has not been eradicated. And they feel cheated, and they feel also that they owe their public something more. There were really terrible protests last night closing down the entrance to Jerusalem of extreme right-wingers, not family members of hostages, but followers of Ben Gvir in pretty violent clashes with police, demanding that the war continue until, quote, absolute victory, total victory, which is what Netanyahu has been promising all along.